Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Michaela, and today we are going to discuss the 24 best books of 2024. Now these are obviously strictly my opinion, my favorite books, but I am so excited to share them with you guys because I felt like I had such a great reading year. This was definitely a better year than 2023, or 2024 was better than 2023. And I feel like we're just going to continuously get better because I've gotten better at distinguishing what it is that I like to read, what kind of things I want to avoid, what kind of things I want to open up to be more open to reading. So I don't know, I feel like we're just discovering ourselves as a reader, as are you guys. So I'm just so excited to get into these and give you guys 24 of the best recs in my opinion. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Okay, what better way to start out than to talk about my favorite book? Like, it used to be so hard for me to decide what my favorite book could be, but without any doubt, is going to be Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This book obviously is a 5/infinity star for me, just because the way Abby wrote this book and these characters was just so addicting. So within this book, we have Dr. Brianna Ortez, and she works at a hospital. She's been there for years, and she is trying to work her way up to this new promotion that's opening. And she's so excited. She knows she's a shoo-in for it. But then in walks Jacob Maddox, and he's new to this hospital. He just transferred jobs, and her advisor, or whatever you want to call it, comes up to her and he's like, yo, Jacob just got here. He's got to be able to play his part and see if he can also get the role. Like, I can't just automatically give it to you now. There's somebody else in the running. So obviously, like, first impression, she's not a fan of this guy. Like, I was literally about to have this job, and now in you come, and it's like questionable now. So, and then their first encounter, also not that great, okay? But Jacob struggles a lot with social anxiety, and I felt like that was something that just tethered me to this book so closely, because I also struggle with social anxiety. So I just felt like understood by him, and honestly, like twin flame, like we had it going on. We just were so connected. I love a good book that dives into real things. Like, I know we read a lot to get out of the real world, avoid the problems and all the crazy things that are going on, but to write and explain and understand mental health so well is such a gift that we cannot ignore. So if that's something you're looking for, if you want to read something that kind of makes you feel seen as a person and understood and quite frankly just related to, I think this book is for you. I think she did it so beautifully, and I think of them all the time. I actually have 2 special editions of this book just because she's quite literally, like, without a doubt my favorite book ever. So we go deeper into this story, and Jacob is really upset with the way the first encounter went. He's not okay with it. He's a great guy. He just doesn't know how to put himself out there. So what he does is he writes a little note and he sticks it on Brianna's laptop, and that's his apology, okay? Like, he can't do the confrontation face to face. He just wants to say his piece and continue to work and get comfortable in this new environment. So when Brianna reads the note, she's like, oh my God, I feel horrible. This guy is literally not the devil that I thought he was. And so she exchanges another note with him. And from there, we just have this beautiful, addicting relationship grow. And it's the most open and honest relationship that honestly I've read to date. So I could spend the entirety of this video talking strictly about this book, but I won't, because I know you guys want more than just one rec. But seriously, if you have not read this book, like, girl, please read it, and then blow my phone up with your thoughts, because I want to know. I want to live vicariously through somebody who has not read this book yet, because it's just so jaw-dropping. Okay, and moving on to book number 2 is going to be The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. And if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that this book was my everything for so long, literally until I read that, which this book is still everything to me, but it got taken out of that #1 spot by Yours Truly. But that's not taking anything away from this book. This book is so beautiful and so interesting and fun, and just you get lost within this world with Clementine. And let me just tell you about it. So Clementine and her aunt are best of friends. They travel the world together. They have experiences together. They quite literally are attached at the hip. And unfortunately, as things happen, her aunt died. And she's just feeling so lost. She doesn't know how to navigate this world that was theirs to conquer, you know? And so her aunt actually leaves her apartment. And the funny thing about her apartment is she's always told Clementine, this is a magical place, like things happen here, da 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 da. Well, there is magic within this apartment. Based off the title, The 7-Year Slip, the reason it has that name is because when she moves into this house, I think she's sleeping on the couch or something, and it says it on the back of the book, so I'm not spoiling, but she's like chilling, you know, whatever, and she wakes up and there's this strange Southern man who smells like lemon, and he's standing in the kitchen like quite confused at what this woman is doing on his couch, but she's also confused about what this man is doing standing in her house, her aunt's house. So turns out that this apartment slips back into 7 years into the past. So while she's living there, she is seeing something from 7 years in the past that is quite literally not there today. So I just think the magic that was put into this book, and how it's also just like, it's not magic like your typical magic. It's just that weird magical realism. I don't know if that's what you would call that, but it's just so beautiful. I have never loved characters so thoroughly until yours truly. But this book just absolutely, from the very beginning, like, can you see all those tabs? It's literally ridiculous. I have this whole entire book underlined, like quite literally, because of how amazing it was. How amazing it was. Yeah. I have to read this part of the synopsis because it's so beautifully written. Her aunt always said the apartment was a pinch in time, a place where moments blended together like watercolors. She also said that love is never a matter of time, but a matter of timing. Clementine fears she may be 7 years too late. Because, I mean, you're in this apartment and she is growing and learning everything about this man, and she's like, oh my God, like, he is so, but he's literally 7 years in the past. Like, how are you supposed to, how does that work? And that was my question throughout the whole book, and it just kept me so invested and curious about what would happen next. So yes, please read this book. It is so good. My favorite Ashley Poston by far. I also have another one of hers to talk about, but we'll get there. But if you have not read this book, it is a beautiful romance with some good magic in there that just really brings the story to life. And this is definitely a tearjerker, so be ready to sob your eyes out, but also feel your heart pounding out of your chest because of all the love you feel for this book and the characters. It's so good. Also a 5-star read. And we're gonna continue with the 5 stars for a little bit. We got Hannah Bonin Young, and this is Out on a Limb. I am not huge on the pregnancy tropes. It's not one of my favorites. So to read a book that is strictly centered around pregnancy, and for me to give it 5 stars and think about it constantly, is like a job well done. It's funny because this book is actually, it's a one-night stand turned not a one-night stand. I just told you she gets pregnant. I mean, it's a whole ordeal, but the way they meet in this book, like, I quite literally swoon every single time because it is the most, I don't know, what is a word to describe how utterly perfect they are? Is there even a word? So yeah, I mean, you go from a costume Halloween party that's supposed to be this fun thing to literally, quite frankly, if I can say so, it was the best smut scene I've ever read. Like, read it and you'll understand. Not because of how detailed and crazy it was, but the things that he would say to her. Because I mean, in this book, she has, what would you call that? I don't want to say it wrong. Her limb difference. That's what they call it on the back. And then he actually has an amputated foot. So they kind of have these things in common, you know, and the way he treats her and caters to her in that bedroom literally just made my heart freaking race. So yeah, I mean, we have that at the party, okay? And then obviously Winnie ends up pregnant. She is honestly quite excited about it because she has always wanted to be a mother, but she doesn't know how he's going to react. Obviously she tells Beau, she drops the bomb, and from there they just decide, let's be friends, let's get to know each other, you know, because we're literally about to have a child together, so let's just get to know each other. And the way they do, it's, oh my God, I get so flustered talking about my favorite books because I just don't feel like there's words to express how much I truly love them and how much I applaud these authors for the beautiful writing that they're capable of doing. So I don't know what else to say about this book because I literally explained, like, I don't want to get into any more detail. That's all I want to tell you. And if you don't like pregnancy tropes, please do not let that steer you away from this book because I'm not the biggest fan either. It depends on how it's done, but it's never been done this well. Never. So yeah, I don't know. If I have not convinced you to read this book by now, I cannot do my job and I quit. Okay, another 5-star read. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Are you freaking kidding me? It honestly took me way too long to dive into this world. I can't believe that I strayed away from it on purpose for so long. Like, I was just so convinced that it wasn't for me and I wouldn't enjoy it. And then my dad finally got me to read them, and I am quite literally obsessed. This book, like, I only have one more book left in the series, obviously, but this book to me has been my absolute favorite, and I'm being told that when I read Deathly Hallows, I'll have a new favorite. But as of right now, it is the Half-Blood Prince because of how much action and storyline is thrown into this one. And it's funny because if you watch my wrap up for, I don't even know what month that was, so never mind. But the way I felt towards Order of the Phoenix, I was honestly scared going into this book. I was like, how is it going to be? Where did my love and interest go for this book? And I found it again within this book. Honestly, in my opinion, which Deathly Hallows will be a whole different story, but within this book, Harry goes through more trials and tribulations than he has since he's joined Hogwarts, and things occur that literally I couldn't even fathom. Like, when that happened, I was on the floor sobbing. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? The plot twist, okay? And I know a lot of people have seen the movies. If you've seen the movies and you have not read the books, let me be the one to tell you, do yourself the justice of reading the books. Because I am always like blabbing to my dad, like, oh, I'm at this part in the book and this is going on and this is happening. And he's just like blown away by how much they take out of the book and don't put in the movie. It's like mind-blowing, especially to me as I am reading it and then immediately watching it. I just notice how many differences there are, and it's honestly astonishing. So if you have already watched them and you haven't read them, please read them. It is so worth it. Oh my god, and the relationships that formed within this book. Geeking out, okay? So yeah, I mean, this is honestly, like I said, my favorite Harry Potter thus far, and I cannot wait for Deathly Hallows. But if you have not read, please do. I literally have already rewatched every single one of the movies. I think I've seen this one like 3 times already, and this was my most recent read. I think I read it like last month. So yeah, that's Harry Potter. I can't put into words, but I also don't want to delve too much into what this book is about because I don't want to spoil anything. This is year 6 into the book, so I'm not gonna say too much, but yes, please read it. It's a 5-star read. So good. And I never expected to give a Harry Potter 5 stars, but here we are. And next, I can't remember, I think this was it was somewhere between a 4 and a 5, but There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. Oh my god. This was my first Sophie Lark. I cannot believe I hadn't read her yet because she has me. She won me so quickly with this book. Okay, so our main characters in this book are going to be Cole and Mara, and Cole is this very powerful, not messed with guy within San Francisco. So he's very powerful. Everybody knows this guy and they do not get in his way. Complete opposite from Mara, because she's quoted as a nobody. I don't like to say that even about characters, but that is how she is portrayed. Like, she's really nobody, definitely in comparison to Cole. But when their paths cross, he starts stalking her, and for some reason he is infatuated with Mara because she's amazing. I loved her as a character, but he finds himself infatuated and just obsessed with this woman. So he begins like stalking her, and then paths cross in a crazy way. I was like, when I saw what happened in the beginning of this book, I was like, girl, run with your tail tucked between your legs. How is Sophie going to take this mess and make a beautiful relationship? But the fact that she did just had me wanting to eat up more and more Sophie Lark. So obviously Mara is not dumb. She's aware that Cole is like a dangerous guy and somebody she shouldn't really get involved with. But for some reason within her, she can't find herself to push this guy away, especially when he understands her and sees her as more than a nobody. Like, literally nobody else can. She just feels understood by this man and seen in a different light. So you can understand why she would be so attracted to this guy and not really wanting to back down. So we have these polar opposites in this very tense situation, and things get dark, things get steamy, and it's so addictive. So if you are into dark romance and you have not read Sophie Lark, let me just tell you, girl, you're literally missing out. Like, I thought I knew dark romance from the Mindfuck series or Hunting Adeline, but it's nothing in comparison. Nothing. Nobody has done dark romance for me like Sophie Lark. So yeah, I would definitely read this one if you like that kind of stuff. And the next book is also a 5-star. I think they might They genuinely might all be 5 stars. They're either gonna be between a 4 and a 5, but this was definitely a 5 star. This is Neutral Zone by my favorite little girly, Tegan Hunter. So this is book number 7 in the Carolina Comments series, and I know if you've been hanging out with me for a while, you already know what Carolina Comments is because I literally never shut up about it. If you like hockey, you like smut, you love close-knit friend groups, you're missing out if you have not read this book. So honestly, the reason I chose this book to discuss is because it was the last book in the series. It took all of it and it wrapped it up in this nice little present. And I feel like she couldn't have done any better. Like the way she closed everything out was just so utterly fulfilling to me. And I think about them all the time. Like I literally miss Carolina Comments more than anything. Obviously there's other books that I want to reread, but these are constantly on replay in my mind, and I don't think I have a more favorite sports romance. That was a hard sentence to say. So within this book specifically, we have Fitz and Rosie, and the thing here is she's a cam girl, and he is a cam watcher, or should I say Rosie watcher, and he is just completely entranced with this woman via the camera, and he wants her bad, okay? But she has no idea. She knows she has people within this group that watch her and support her, pay her, all of that stuff, but this guy, she actually knows not only through the screen, but off the screen, and she has no idea that he watches her. So we have this tense situation of she has no idea. What if she finds out? Will she hate me? Well, obviously, as we know in life, everything comes to the light. So when Rosie finds out that Fitz is actually, you know, he's very much aware of what she does for a living, things start to get a little rocky, but we just get to watch this couple. They're just so perfectly crafted for each other. Like, she's a baddie. He wants her. He's also a baddie, if you can call a guy a baddie. They're both freaking baddies. So I won't go too heavy into it because it is the 7th book in the series. I don't want to spoil a single thing because I want you to read it for yourself. But this book is just perfect for hockey lovers or like those tight-knit, like Chestnut Springs. Think Chestnut Springs and that family. Literally them, but as a friend group. Like, it just makes me so happy to hang out with these guys. I want to reread it just thinking about it. It was so beautiful, and I recommend this series to literally anybody that talks to me.
Do it! Just do it!
Okay, so the next book, obviously a 5 star, okay? Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I know you've heard of The Boys of Tommen. Everybody has. I had seen it and seen it and seen it and just heard the most like roaring reviews for it. So obviously I'm going to pick it up, and I am so, look at how floppy she is. Oh my God. I'm so glad I did. This is actually number 2 within the Boys of Tommen series, and we follow again Johnny and Shannon, and she's new to, well, let's say Binding 13. Let's talk about the first book a little bit. She is new to Tommen, which is the school they go to, and Johnny, the way they meet is so cute, and I know that's so weird to think because she literally like got hurt when they met, but I just thought it was such a cute interaction. I might be crazy, but I fell in love with them from the first day that I met them, and I'm honestly itching to get back to this universe, but I have to be mentally prepared because when I tell you it's traumatic, I'm not saying that lightly at all. But I love the way that Chloe handles and talks about the issues within this book. I just feel like she writes it so well, and she really like makes you feel the things that these characters are feeling, and you're just the whole time wishing for better for them because they deserve it. They truly do. Every single member of that family, what is her last name? Lynch. Every single member, scratch that, not every single member, but most of the members of the Lynch family deserve so much better than what they're getting. And within this book, there was a plot twist that I could not have seen from a mile away. I couldn't even see it from 20 feet away until I got to that one scene, and I was like, holy crap, I know exactly what's about to happen. Close the book. I don't even want to finish it. Obviously I did finish the book, and I'm glad I did because it's just so beautifully devastating, if that makes sense to you. It centers around rugby. Johnny is a rugby player, and oh my God, Gibbsy, he is Johnny's best friend, okay, and the love of my life. I cannot wait to get to his book, but obviously I'm going to have to read more to do that. I just have to prepare myself for what I know is coming because I know the basis of what we're going to deal with within the next book. So I'm trying to get myself amped up and ready for that. But yes, please read this book. It is so good. Just look up the synopsis, see if it's something that you want to do. Look up the trigger warning, see if it's something you can handle. And if so, Keeping 13. It's so good. Let's talk about two books at the same time real quick, because I also read Indigo Ridge and Juniper Hill by Devney Perry, and these books were literally life-changing for me. Something I realized like a month or two ago is third act breakups are just like not for me anymore. I can take one here and there, but I don't want to read romances back to back and continuously have this third act breakup issue. So within this book, Devney Perry doesn't do that. She literally doesn't do that. Instead, there's like a drama going on or just this mystery, but it's never like, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore. It's just something crazy happens to this couple and they have to deal with it and navigate it on their own. So more specifically, Indigo Ridge, we have Winslow, and she just moved to this new town to kind of get a fresh start, and her grandfather actually is the mayor there, and she's been able to achieve the position of chief of police. So she's coming into this small town. These people, they've been living the way they've been living. You know how small towns are. They're to themselves, they have their ways, and they stick by them. But when she comes in as chief of police, there is this suicide that just looks very fishy to her. She doesn't understand it. She thinks it's very, very questionable. So she starts stirring up some pots and asking questions, and the town's just like, no, we know what happened here, but she just cannot let this go. Something is on her chest telling her this is more than what is appearing to the eye. So she starts digging and digging and digging, and we just uncover some of the most crazy, crazy things and actually find out what's going on within this town. And then at the very end, where the third act breakup could be, is instead the craziest, craziest plot twist that I just found myself like so obsessed. I want to read everything Devney writes. I need to buy the other books ASAP because I've already read the first 4, and I think there's like 3 more left, but I have not bought them yet. But do not let that trick you, because I literally love this series with everything in me. Okay, and then book 2, Juniper Hill. Honestly, it like, I thought I was obsessed with the first one, but when I read this one, I was like, okay, like you have me in an absolute chokehold right now. Within this book, we follow Memphis and Knox. And Memphis, she's new to town. She also is a new mother, and she is just like struggling. She really doesn't have any help, but she is so strong-willed and so independent that she's gonna do it. She's gonna do it with a smile on her face and not let anybody see that she's struggling. But Knox is actually, okay, so she lives here and he lives there because this is the only place that was open. So Knox kind of unwillingly decided, okay, we're going to let her stay here. So she's literally laying over here and he's laying over there at his house. And obviously, single mother, there's going to be like hiccups, there's going to be screaming babies, and he's just noticed that like this girl ain't getting no sleep, she's doing this all on her own, and I just want to help her out. So we kind of had this like forced proximity. So he comes in and he starts helping her and helping her child, and just like, I don't know, Knox is just like literally one of the best MMCs I've ever read because of his heart, you know, like his heart is just so genuine and good because he does not have any ties to her. He does not have to do anything for her. He's already letting her stay in his house. So why do anything extra? But he doesn't look at it that way. He looks at it as, you know, she's right there, I'm right here, I'm not doing anything, why can't I not help this woman? Things start to happen. I mean, this man is helping you in a time that nobody else is giving you anything. So they grow so close as friends, and then things kind of take off from there. So if you have not read this series by Devney Perry, or at least the first 2, I really think you should. This is so good and so beautifully written. I could not recommend this book more. And next we're going to talk about The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I actually read this one soon after I read The 7 Year Slip because I was like, okay, wow, I really like this woman. And I believe I gave this book 5 stars. Okay, so Florence is actually a ghostwriter, and she works for one of the most like famous authors. She's a very big name, but nobody knows that she writes for her. So she goes into work one day, and guess what? New boss. Okay, so she meets him, and she's just like, she just went through something. She is not feeling romance. She thinks it's completely dead, but he's like, yo, that's literally your job. I'm gonna need you to write me a romance, and I need you to do it like now. So unfortunately, her father ends up passing away, so she's got to go back home to do the funeral and see her family and just handle all of that baggage, you know. And while she's there, there's a knock on the door. She goes to answer the door, right? Guess who's standing outside? Her new boss. And guess what? He's dead.
What? What the fuck?
So, I mean, it's like baffling because like I literally just saw you and now you're here for what reason? It's so strange. And the whole time, obviously you're falling in love with these two because they just have this strong, beautiful connection that honestly, like, you wouldn't expect because of the circumstances, but the way they grow into each other and like share things and just become very, very bonded, you're like scratching your head like, okay, but he's dead. Like, how is this going to work out? And the way that Ashley spun it and wrote it was just so jaw-dropping, and I loved it. It was perfect, and I would totally recommend it to anybody, especially if you like a weird, unpredictable romance. Like, what can you pull from this? You know, you're gonna be so curious and so hooked that you're just gonna want to continue reading. At least that's what happened to me. And I think everybody should read this book. I thought it was so, so beautiful. And honestly, it got highly talked about for a very long time, but I was just very questionable about it. I'm not sure why. But then after reading that, I was like, okay, like that's what I needed to read this. And then I read this, and no, it wasn't as good as The 7-Year Slip in my opinion, but it's a 5-star read. I absolutely loved it. And next is going to be Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. I'm sorry. I need to learn. But this book literally stole my heart. I initially gave it 4.5 stars, but I did bump it up to a 5. So within this book, we have Gideon Sharp, which he is the hunter, and then we have Rune, and she is the hunted. So some devastating travesty happened about, you know, years ago, whatever. And ever since then, witches are banned. Like, they are not allowed to be here. They're too powerful and too scary. So Gideon's job, I can't remember what he's called. I don't know. I think he has a title, but he is the person in charge of hunting these witches down that still do exist and getting rid of them. But Rune here, okay, she's not okay with that. She's not feeling it. And she is actually going to try to save these witches that are people are trying to kill, because she just does not believe in that. So obviously, if she is helping the witches, my girl is a witch, and she has to hide that fact, especially when her and Gideon start to court each other, because she needs information from Gideon. Gideon is suspicious of her, so they're kind of like playing each other at the same time. And things get very, very, very interesting. So it's very, very cool because in the beginning, Rune is just like socialite. All she cares about is parties, getting dressed up and all that stuff, but it's all a facade. And Gideon kind of starts to see through that facade and was like, oh my God, like I actually kind of like this girl. So I mean, what do you do in that situation when, if he knows what she is, she's gotta go. Like, it's not a good match at all. It kind of makes me think of the Mindfuck series, because she's a killer, he's a cop. Like, it doesn't coincide, but it does. I just thought, like, for a fantasy, this was just awing. I absolutely loved it. It was so bingeable and fast paced, and the storyline, literally, like, you go in swinging and it does not let up. Like, it stays crazy and keeps your attention the entire time. And honestly, fantasies, it's iffy when they do that for me. Like, it happens sometimes, but then mostly it's like, okay, the beginning's really slow and I'm hating this, and then, oh, it's fun. Not this book. Literally page 1, you're so invested and having a great time. So obviously I would recommend this to any and everybody, especially if like fantasy is something you're trying to get into. I feel like this is a very good place to start, just because of how easy it is to read and how great it's written. Applause to her, because this is one of my favorite fantasies. So I think you should read her. Okay, and book 12 is going to be The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. And this book, like, the first time I read like the synopsis, I was like, okay, this sounds so intriguing. And literally the moment, because I did it as an audiobook, the moment I started listening, I was just like so encaptured by what was going on within the story. Okay, so I could totally explain this book to you, but I don't feel like I could say it personally as good as they do on the synopsis. It's just written so well, and it really grabs at your mind, and you're like so curious about what's going to occur. So I do want to read this to you. So Evelyn Hardcastle will be murdered at 11 p.m. There are 8 days and 8 witnesses for you to inhabit. We will only let you escape once you tell us the name of the killer. Understood? Then let's begin. At a masquerade ball thrown by her parents at their English country house, Evelyn Hardcastle will die. She will die every day until Aidan Bishop can identify who murdered her and stop the killer. At the beginning of each day, Aiden wakes up at Blackheath House in a body of a different guest of the gala he attended the night before, and some of those guests are more helpful than others. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle is a breathlessly inventive gothic mystery that follows one man's quest to find a killer within a mind-bending temporal loop where no one can be trusted and nothing is quite as it seems. So, like, he quite literally wakes up within a different body. Like, the only thing he has is his mind, but he's also got theirs in there. So he's thinking the way they would kind of think. And he's also trying to stay on track of, we gotta find this killer or you're donezo, dude, and so is she. So it's just very, very intriguing. Like, honestly, this book was so fun from the very beginning to the very end. I was shocked more times than I can count. And it's definitely bingeable. So if you want like a, what did it say? A gothic mystery? Gothic mystery. If that's what you're looking for, I would highly recommend this. I cannot stress enough how much I enjoyed this book. I feel like it's not talked about enough, so I am here to tell you to read her, please. Okay, and book number 13 is going to be The Reappearance of Rachel Price. I should mention, these are in no order. We kind of started with an order, but now we're just like going through because I love all of these books. But this book specifically, this girl was, I want to say 3 years old when her mother disappeared. I don't know. She was very, very young, so she doesn't really have a lot of recollection of the night that it happened. But the night that it did happen, she's left in a car, stranded, and her mom is just like gone, just like that. So this film crew comes and they're like wanting to do this documentary because it's never been solved. What happened to Rachel Price? Where did she go? Who took her? Did somebody kill her? What happened here? Like, we just don't understand. It's one of those mysteries that just gets your mind spinning. You have so many questions to ask. So this film crew comes in and they decide they want to interview her and kind of like her acquaintances, her family, and try to see if they themselves can crack the case of Rachel Price. So the strange thing about this is when they've started this film and they're working on it, and I want to say she's walking home one night. What is her name? Belle. Belle's walking home one night and she sees this woman who literally looks like a spitting image of her mother, Rachel Price, and she's just completely thrown off guard. And then in she walks up to their house saying, "Hey, I'm home." Can't really explain what's going on. So she tells them this story and Belle is just questioning every aspect of this story. She just doesn't believe it. She doesn't think any of it's true. And she's trying to figure out, why is her mom lying? Who is this woman? Because she doesn't really have any recollection of her. So she's just like not trusting her at all. Her and her dad are like this. So for her to come back into her life after being gone for so long, and she's at that teenage stage where she's just like, I got what's mine. I don't know who you are. Please get out of my face. It's just so interesting to figure out what did happen to Rachel Price. What is going to happen now that she's back, because it doesn't stop there. It gets more interesting. So I think that if you like a murder mystery investigating type feel, you will really like this book. Okay, so let's talk about two books at the same time again, because this is going to be book 1 and 2 in the Checklist romance series by Emma Miller, and both of these books were either 4.5 or 5. This was a 5. I want to maybe this was the 5 and this was the 4.5. Either way, they're obviously both freaking good. So both of our MMCs within these two books are football players, and like, you might think, because I said they're football players, that they're like these total shithead jocks, but they're not. They are so far from like your typical jock that it's not even funny. Belly and Lawson are quite literally like some of the most perfect bookmen that I have read. Bookmen sounded really weird, but fictional men that I have read, because of their hearts are just so pure. And you would think, like, I don't know, Lawson gets this bad rep, but Lawson was honestly my favorite. I love Bellamy Archer with everything within me, but Lawson just has me like this. So in this book, we have Cameron, and she is best friends with Sienna, and they're sitting down one night on the couch and they're like, let's make a list of things that happen in movies that would literally never happen in real life. And Bellamy has a little crushy crush on Cameron. And when he finds this list, he's like, oh, bet, hold my beer. So it's just this like fun little showing a girl what can be. And that romance is not dead. You just have to find the right guy to give it to you. And Bellamy was that freaking guy. I loved him to pieces and I think about him constantly. I'm actually getting the 3rd book sent to me soon and I'm so excited. And then within book 2, Sienna she's not feeling the love thing, okay? She just got out of a relationship and she feels like she wasted her frickin' time with this guy. She sees no point in it. So our girl Cameron is like, girl, I'm gonna lift your spirits. We're gonna go out tonight and we're gonna have fun. So Lawson is obviously gonna be there because he's Bellamy's best friend, and these two just get together and absolutely, like, obviously there's like, it's a period of time where it's like, get away from me, whatever. But then it's just like, boom, 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 and it's just so good. I just think that Emma's so talented as a writer, and the way she just made me fall in love with so many characters, not just Bellamy and Cameron and Sienna and Lawson, but also every character you meet within this book. Not every character, but most characters within this book, you're just genuinely falling head over heels for, and you're just like, oh my God, like, can I live in this book? So I would totally recommend these, especially because she's my girly and I adore her. I think you should read them. There's no bias towards this. Like, it's literally a good book. I will say when a book is good and when a book is bad, and this book is just so amazing. I loved it. Okay, and then next we're going to talk about Throttled by Lauren Asher. This was one of my most annotated books for a while, which is crazy to me because I had never really cared about F1. It was like, it's cool. They go so fast, cool. And then I read this book and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm in love with an F1 boy. This book actually started like my, I want to say short-lived love for F1. It's cool and I love like all the racers, but I don't take the time to commit to watching it and everything. But this book, like, I feel like when I read Collided, I will want to get back into F1 because it just, the way Lauren writes it, like the man within this book, are you freaking kidding me? So Noah Slade is like this unstoppable force in F1. He is like a legend within this world. And when he meets Maya, he's like, kind of like, okay, I like her. But guess what? It's literally his teammate sister.
Oh God!
So obviously we have that forbidden love type thing going on, but just like being at the races, experiencing it all with Maya and Noah, I just found myself so addicted to this story and I found it so fun to read. So honestly, Collided will be on my hit list soon because I miss it. It was so well written, and just like how much is put into this book. It's like you go through a whole entire F1 season and only this much book. I love the timeline and the way we kind of jump around a little bit. It's really fun for me in my opinion. So if you like F1, or even if you don't, try this book out. I thought it was so good. Okay, and next we're going to talk about Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver, and I thought this book was so good. Okay, so for this book specifically, I'm gonna read you the synopsis and then I'm gonna read you the content warnings. Take it as you will. Okay, so every serial killer needs a friend. Every game must have a winner. When a chance encounter sparks an unlikely bond between rival murderers Sloan and Rowan, they find something elusive: the friendship of two like-minded pitch black souls who just happen to enjoy killing other serial killers. Like, come on. From small town West Virginia to upscale California, and from downtown Boston to rural Texas, the two hunters collide in an annual game of blood and suffering, one that pits them against the most dangerous monsters in the country. But as their friendship develops into something more, the restless ghosts left in their wake are only a few steps behind, ready to claim more than just their newfound love. So these two serial killers that quite literally kill other serial killers that, like, they're like the good guys. Like, yes, they're killing people, but they're the good guys. So they begin this like game of meeting, I think it's once a year, and just like seeing who can get this bad guy first. And I just found it so interesting. It was so twisted and dark and just so addictive. So the content warnings within this book, it's so funny. I'm not gonna lie, I saw it at the store and it looked like something I would like, so I picked it up. Didn't even read the synopsis. I read the content warnings and I said, bye. So content and trigger warnings. As much as Butcher and Blackbird is a dark romantic comedy and will hopefully make you laugh through the madness, it's still dark. Please read responsibly. If you have any questions about this list, please don't hesitate to contact me and Okay, this is the trigger list. Are you ready? Eyeballs and eye sockets. Amateur surgery. Skin ornaments. Chainsaws, axes, knives, scalpels, and a lot of sharp objects. Accidental cannibalism. Not so accidental cannibalism, questionable use of a mummified corpse, lobotomized manservant, ill-advised use of kitchen implements. I'm sorry about the cookies and cream ice cream. I'm not really. Well, just wait, okay? Detailed sex scenes which include but are not limited to. I'm not gonna read that because it gets pretty dark, okay? And you thought that was it. Silly you, because there's literally more, okay? References to parental neglect and child abuse, parental loss not depicted, references to child assault not in detail. It's a book about serial killers, so there's some genuinely messed up murder and chaos. Do I need to say much more? Okay, so let's talk about 18 and 19 at the same time because another two-part. Okay, Reckless and Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Literally one of my favorite fantasies. Like, look how tabbed up those babies are. They look so good. Oh my god. So this book follows Peyton Gray, and she lives in a world where there are elites and then there are ordinaries. And ordinaries are kind of banished from the land. The elites are like, we're too good for you. Please get out of here. And she has always acted like she's a psychic just so she could fit into the society and not be targeted just because she's ordinary, you know? So one day we're just living our normal life and she happens to save a prince, which is going to be Kai, our MMC. And because of this, because of the bravery she's shown and the strength that she's shown within this scene of saving the prince, she is thrown into the purging trials, which is the most mind-boggling thing ever because these people are thrown into this like trial, I guess you could say, and they are meant to fight and use their elite powers in order to make it to the end. Do you see the problem here? She's literally ordinary. She has no power, so she's thrown into this ring with no boots on. Did that make sense? No. So it's just so interesting and so action-packed and bingeable. I absolutely love this book, and the way it ended, I was just like, no, screaming. And then we got here, and oh my god, the way this one ended was even worse. I was like, oh my god. So I truly cannot wait for Fearless based off these two books. I just thought it was so fun. I'm not going to talk too much about Reckless other than it takes a wild turn. Like, we know how things are going to begin because of the way this one ended, but I never could have predicted. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I saw this coming. I didn't, girl. I never could have thought that this would happen. So I was just honestly so baffled. So in my opinion, these books are also like very easy fantasies and very easy to get engaged with. Just the way she writes it, I want to say it's simplistic, but not like, she has this special way about her writing. It's like, it's different, it's unique, and it's very easy to read and to follow along with and to like fall in love with. So I would definitely recommend both of these. I'm literally waiting for Fearless and I cannot wait much longer, so please hurry up. So book number 20 is going to be Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and this book was everything and more, obviously a 5-star read. So within this book we have Justin and Emma, and I know I've said in this video already maybe twice that the meet cute was the best thing I've ever read, but their meet cute was just so unique and different and honestly hilarious that I automatically fell for this couple. So Justin posts this little tweet or whatever you want to call it on this website, and he gets a response because he's just explaining how, you know, every single person that I end up with when we break up, they go and they get married, and I'm stuck here like, what the heck? Or like, am I cursed? What's the deal? And Emma replies saying, holy crap, that's literally me. Like, we're in the same freaking boat. So they get this idea that maybe if they date, it'll cancel it out, and then when they break up, they'll both find their soulmates. Emma is actually a traveling nurse, and she does it with her best friend Maddie, and they just pick which locations they want to go to, and they end up getting the job for a temporary time at that hospital, and they're just always constantly on the move. And their next trip, they're on Hawaii until they start having this chat, and they're like, we should try this out. Like, I know it's crazy and I know it's a big leap of faith and it might be absolutely pointless, but Emma talks Maddie into doing it. And so instead of going to Hawaii, they go, I can't remember where they go. Minnesota. May I suggest Minnesota? He literally like is like, okay, come on girl. So they end up going to Minnesota instead, which is where Justin is. So they have this summer, literally just for the summer, that they have become like the most inseparable people. They just get each other on a different level. They both have these like life things going on that is stressing them the crap out. Justin is thrown into the lion's cage with something he never asked for. He did not sign up for this, but he's a great guy, so he's going to do what he can to help out. And it's just so inspiring to see like him take this with pride. And then same thing goes for Emma. Her situation is her mom, okay? You know, like relationships can be so touch and go, but her mom is like quite literally a little loony, okay? So she's dealing with that, but she wants her mother's approval. She adores her mother. It's not like she doesn't like her. It's just she's sick of being disappointed. So not only do these two have similarities with like life difficulties and all that, they also relate to each other in the aspect of hey, I can never find anybody either. Why do I feel like I'm cursed and I'm not meant to love? So we follow these two and we get to spend the summer with them and just see these emotions build and the love flare between these two. And it was just so perfect. And I just loved it so much. Everything about it was so, so good. Abby Jimenez has stolen my freaking heart, and she can have it because she deserves it. After this and after yours truly, I could not be more happy over this author. I literally cannot wait for Say You'll Remember, because it actually stems off of something we see within this book. So, oh my God. So book 21 is going to be Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I believe I gave this book 4 stars. And the reason that it was so, so important to me and sentimental is because I had not been to Chestnut Springs in a while. It had felt like a while since I was at the ranch and with these people that I adored. So when she gave us this new set of friends and family, I instantly fell in love. So within this book, we have a best friend's little sister situation, and quite honestly, an enemies to lovers. These two do not get along. In some aspects they do, but mainly, like, overall, no, they don't mix too well. It's like water and oil. But when Rosie comes back home because of some things that happened in her life, she ends up getting a job working and helping Ford. So you got this forced proximity workplace romance going on, and these two just, I don't know, they brought me back to those Western feels, and I really loved Rosie and Ford as characters. I just felt like they were so, I don't know, their souls just like, you're like, why are you talking about the soul of a made-up character? You get it. Don't try to act like you don't. So things come to a halt when he finds out there's a 12-year-old on his doorstep and she's claiming that he is his father, and he has no idea what to do. You know, this was not expected. It was a very huge twist thrown into his life. So he has Rosie here now, and he has this kid here now, and he's just trying to move on, continue to push through life. And just the way these three mended and like became one unit together was just so beautiful and wholesome, and I absolutely loved it. Elsie Silver literally cannot do wrong. I love this book and would recommend it to anybody that enjoys Western romances, workplace romances, kid romances, like whatever you think you like, it's gonna be in here. Okay, and book 22 is going to be The Road Not Taken by Emily Tudor, and I easily gave this book 5 stars. So within this book, we follow Olivia and Tristan, and Olivia is just feeling very stuck in her life. You know, she's still working at the same grocery store she's worked at forever. She's still living in the small town she's lived in forever, and she just doesn't feel like the train's moving. She feels like she is stuck in this time and this place, and she just can't get anything to change until Tristan West walks back into town. And you know, these two have a history. They used to be so deeply in love, and then it just ended just like that. So when he waltzed back into her life that has seemed to be frozen in time, obviously things start to get a little different. So they were head over heels for each other in high school, and then all it took was one day and things just completely blew up in their faces. Tristan obviously moved away. Olivia was brokenhearted. This was like the man she saw for her life, and things took a crazy unexpected turn. And that's another thing, like, you don't find out what happens until you get a good ways into the book, and you're just like, but I mean, when their paths continue to cross over and over and over again, they're starting to think, you know, what if this is like a second chance for us? So this book was so beautiful, and I need to read more Emily Tudor. It actually blows my mind that I haven't, because this book was so, so good. But this book also has stuck with me in the way that I cannot look at a sunset or a sunrise without thinking of these two characters, because that's their thing. It's this thing that they share, and it's just so beautiful and wholesome, and I love it. If you're looking for a second chance, forced proximity, baggage type of romance, I truly think this one's for you. It was so, so well done, and I just think about it constantly, especially like, imagine looking at the sky and thinking of a book because of the sky. Like, that's dope, okay? Also, another one that's so annotated because she just has a way with words. What else can I say? We're getting down to the end of the line, guys. So book number 23 is going to be Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, and oh my God, this book wrecked me. So I'm gonna read you the synopsis on this one just because I don't want to give too much away, because I feel like this is such a deep book. So with that being said, for years I've dreamt of what college life could bring, and while some things have changed, there was always one constant. It didn't matter how wild I allowed my mission to run, my future was clear, and he was it. until suddenly he wasn't. Now there's a new man in my life, one who isn't afraid to go after what he wants, and what he wants is me. So within this book, we have tragedy. You know, like, you're going to be on the floor sobbing, and I'm sorry that I did that to you, but still, please read it, because Megan just sculpted this book so perfectly. Like, I remember when I first started reading it, I was kind of like, and if you've read this, you might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I was kind of getting like the Summer I Turned Pretty vibes at first. And then it took like a huge 180. It was completely different. I was like, okay, that's not what's going on in this book at all. I actually love it. So it's just, oh my God, it's so depressing. I just think this book was written so well. And just like the way we go from such heartache to swooning and just feeling so obsessed with these characters, and then honestly heartache again. It's just, she throws you like a rag doll back and forth with your emotions, and you literally like just feel like you're on this roller coaster, but in the best possible way. Like, it's just such a beautiful story that deserves to be read by everyone, which is why I'm telling you, please read it. So the last book on our list, which it might shock some of you, because I know it's come out of my mouth numerous times that Magnolia Parks was not what I expected. You know, everybody talks so highly about it, and I was just like, I mean, it was okay, it's whatever. But honestly, my favorite book in that series has to be Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, which is saying a lot because I absolutely hated Magnolia in book 1, and then the last book. I just could not stand her as a character, but this book just did something different for me. So I'm not gonna dive too deep into what happens in this book specifically, because this is book 4? No, this is book 3 within that series, and there's so much that leads up to what occurs in this book, but I feel like we just get to know Magnolia and BJ so much more within this book, and it made me understand them as characters, understand why they are as freaking insane as they are, and I just felt so thoroughly connected to this book. So honestly, in my opinion, Magnolia and BJ, think Gossip Girl, think Blair Waldorf and Chuck Bass. Like, that is the situation we have going on here. You stab me, I'm gonna stab you back. That's how they are. It's literally the most insane and toxic relationship ever, but it's so addicting. It's like a train wreck. You literally can't look away. Also, this cover, like, are you kidding? They're so beautiful, and I feel like Jessa just writes this book so good. And she doesn't just focus on Magnolia and BJ. You have all these side characters that she also dives into, and we get to see what's going on within every aspect of these people's lives. And this girl lives in the paper. It's literally Gossip Girl. Like, I swear to God, if you like Gossip Girl, I feel like you'll like this, especially if you were a Blair and Chuck fangirl, you know? So that is going to be the last book. I totally recommend this book, but it's difficult because while I recommend that book, you have to be able to persevere and push through the first 2 to get to that book. But I think it's worth it if you do, and if some people love it, like a lot of people love it. I feel like I'm the odd one out here with this book because so many people are obsessed with them, but I could never quite put myself on their level to understand why they hurt each other so much and why this is the way they choose to love. But this book kind of like put me on that level, but then the next book took me off that level. That was my issue, but it can't take away from that book and how much I loved it, so I would still recommend it. Okay guys, and with that being said, that is all of my 24 favorite books of 2024. We had such a good year, and I can't believe it's over. It passed us by so quickly, but I am very excited to see what we're going to read in 2025. I know there are so many good releases that are coming out, so I am nothing but excited to see what we can add to our list. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really hope you got some good recs today, because like, these are the hills that I will die on. I will never not rave about these books because I think everybody should read them and experience them, and I just love them. So of course I wanted to share them with you guys. So I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week and read plenty of great books, maybe some of the ones we talked about today, and I will see you next time, of course. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like this content, because there's always something bookish going on over here. I love you guys. Peace out. We did it. Now, if there's not a good thumbnail on there, you suck, brother. Look at the rock. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. I'm good now. I just had to get that out. Hi, friends. Totally forgot what to say after that. Because I also struggle with social anxiety. Because I also struggle with social. I will die on this bed or on this hill.